Hey everyone, welcome to Labs Weekly number 10. Yes, double digits. We made it, I think, or something. So thanks for joining us today. I've got myself, Dan and Adam with us, and we wanted to dig into some stuff today, specifically with regard to finding secrets in some of our third-party systems, specifically on the Atlassian Confluence side. And I think I'm going to hand it right over to Dan to kind of dig into some of the stuff that he's been working on there.
Yeah, awesome. So, I mean, access to source code repos is like super useful for doing post exploit, as an adversary or during pen tests and stuff like that. I can't count the number of times that I've dug through code to try and find scripts that access admin functionality or leak credentials or something like that. Most people are familiar with tools like TruffleHog, which help automate extracting some secrets from actual source code. However, we recently went through and did an internal audit of our build pipelines and pulled to make sure that we weren't leaking credentials through pipelines either. So I'll kind of show both of those avenues and demo the tools. If you haven't seen TruffleHog, that's really cool, and kind of show what that's about. So I made this test org on Bitbucket, and I have a couple of repos that I made here, just couple empty ones, and then a couple of open source projects, Jenkins and payload all the things. So there's a lot of code in here. You could, if you were looking for passwords or anything useful, manually click through everything, but that's kind of ridiculous to do at scale if you have hundreds of repos to look through. So TruffleHog is an awesome tool that will look through all of the files in a repository, and it will run regular expression searches to try and detect passwords in a URL, AWS secrets, and stuff like that. It will also go through historical commits. So if somebody checked something in and then realized that it was a bad idea, like an SSH key, and then deleted it, that still stays in the history. So TruffleHog can go back in time and say, hey, a year ago, somebody checked an SSH key in and then deleted it. It's not there anymore, but it might still be valid. So I've already cloned this repo, and I can just go into payload all the things, because I know that there's going to be, it's a repo of common fuzzing and exploit tests, and I know that there's credentials and URLs in here. So I would run TruffleHog just against all the local files here, and by default, TruffleHog does some entropy analysis as well. So in my experience, that means it just spews content, because any type of hash, SHA-1s or MD5s or whatever are probably going to meet the entropy test, the high entropy. In this case, these are actual like JWT tokens, so that might be useful for something. Normally out of the gate, it creates too much noise for me, and I kind of ratchet it back a little bit, and I turn that stuff off. But if you're finding nothing, you may want to enable entropy and start going through that type of stuff. So I usually say entropy false, and I enable the regular expression searches, because I think they're a little bit more accurate, although sometimes a little slower in looking at the code. So immediately you see some higher quality type of output here: secret access keys, potential username and password combinations in URLs. You have like, this would be a username and a potential password, at some application. So if you're doing a pen test and trying to move laterally outside of access to some code, this could be super valuable. It might get you onto an application server. It might get you onto workstations, from PowerShell scripts, SSH keys, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing is that when these jobs are configured um, in Bitbucket, a lot of times code is ran automatically in a pipeline, deployed automatically places in a pipeline, and that frequently requires credentials. However, it's not always that people remember to mark the credentials secured. So I'll show you how you would pull that out manually. I made this boring project with just an example pipeline, and it runs, all the pipeline does is run a build script. So you can go into edit this somewhere, edit, you can edit the pipeline and see what types of variables have been set up for the job. And in this case, there's a username and a password that's required for our deploy step per se. And the username, admin, password, deploy user. Now, normally this would be checked, you would check this and secure it so that people without access to the project wouldn't be able to see it. Sometimes that gets forgotten when the jobs are set up. So we actively audit our internal repositories against this, but I couldn't find a tool, maybe there is one, I couldn't find one that would go and check every single repository, so run through potentially hundreds of repositories and export all of the available variables that are set up. So we'll link to this code. I just pushed this out. If you want to be able to run this script, and I'll demo how it works. We put this up on our GitHub, but you can use the username and password for the Bitbucket user. If you have two-factor authentication set up, you can use an app password, and then just supply the target org name, the username, and the password, and it will rip through every single repo and pull out all of the variables. So if I want to set up an app password, I can go to my personal settings down here and go into app passwords. I will revoke this one and create a new one for this demo. I'll just call this test, and I'm going to give it all read privileges, read write, whatever. Don't care. If you're doing a pen test, I will note this is not like something that will be done stealthily if you have to create an app password. Odds are if you're doing a pen test, you probably have one-factor access. If somehow you pilfered a session or got on the workstation of a target or something like that, this will create a email notification to their account. So if you're trying to be covert and use an app password, you'll have to delete that email or add a rule that would automatically purge emails from Atlassian from the inbox. But I've got a app password here, and we just run the tool. So this will print out, we can print out some help information there. I want to target the, well, let me put my username first. Test. That's the password we just created. And the target is the org name. So what that looks like is, this is a personal account. So the org name is essentially my personal account. But you might have something like, example org, or like, Apple, whomever the company name is. In this case, like I said, it's just my name. And that will pull all the repos, and we can see this one right here has some variables configured, and it just dumps them right out. And that's it.
And now you've completely compromised whatever you just retrieved. No,
Yeah,
it's
odds you find something useful like AWS keys that maybe somebody forgot to mark secured, or you find some artifact deploy, like some artifactory thing, something that goes out to like Maven repositories. You could have credentials to build servers, Windows machines, all types of stuff in there.
Yeah, and I think it's something nice to add to a toolkit, especially for the the red teamers, the pen testers, the things, consultants even that are going in and assessing customers' environments. One other tool that along with like Trufflehog that I've seen used is Sedated by it's an OWASP project. It's pretty well maintained. So it's another one. It may only work with like GitHub, but I can't remember exactly if it'll work with like Atlassian or Bitbucket or something like that. But it is a very powerful thing, especially looking at some of the commit histories, because like Dan mentioned early on, there's a lot of times where developers will commit something and go, oh shit, I forgot that I shouldn't be committing my AWS keys or whatever, and then they go and try and delete it. Well, it's really hard to delete a commit, especially really far after the fact. But these tools will help you find some of those things so you can at least help scrub them.
Yeah, that defeats the purpose of version control if you're,
right,
deleting commits. So this kind of thing is really popular in CTFs as well. I know that I've done a lot of this kind of scraping. One of the common ones that I've seen too is people will accidentally commit the .git repos or the .bitbuckets type configuration files to a production server. So you can then go and access it from like their website, just /.git. And from there, you can pull all of their commits down and have the entire history, even if it's a private repo. So
you'll find access keys for stuff on bug bounties, like on GitHub too. Because they're hard to revoke. You got to roll them if they get exposed. Like you said, I mean, it's not super easy to purge the data once it's been committed in the commit history.
Right, for sure. This is a cool tool, and I recommend that people go check it out and pull it.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining us today, and hopefully you got a little something out of it. And like I said before, if you have any questions, check below for our Twitter, and we'll respond as quickly as we can. Thanks all.
The 0-day heap will spray, clear the way. If the log file touch, get your hard line cut. Number 2, never let them know your next move. Don't you know bad boys move in silence and pirate taken from your wireless? I done flashed mad chips with these hacks just to patch these bits. Number 3, never trust nobody. IRC